Please call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Spiritu? Here. Ms. Laird? Here. Mr. Price?
Here.
Ms. Ray? Here. Mr. Vorbetz?
Here. Approve or amend and sign the minutes of the regular meeting held June 28th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mr. Price,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Espiritu. Are there any concerns regarding the minutes? Roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Ms. Ray?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Gorbetz?
Yes, motion carries. Do we have any walk-on items?
Thank you, Mr. Corbett. I actually have not a walk-on item, but a clarification with a price. Item 4, board this evening. We did not have an amount yet when the agenda went to print. So I have the amount for the Educational Service Center's extended school year on item 4. That number is $2,788.16. $2,788.16. I just want to make sure they got that on there. So we missed that timing wise. That's the only thing I have to adjust on the agenda, Mr. Gorbetz. Thank you.
We can have our legislative liaison report at this time.
Okay, good evening. Everyone may have recalled that a couple of meetings ago, we had residents that presented information to us regarding critical race theory 1619 project. We shared that information and answered those questions. In response, Shari Mullins wanted to provide a video. I think you've all seen the video, but wanted to share that with the public this evening on the topic. I think the video does a nice job of illustrating where some of the controversy lies and the perspective on both sides. So we'll be showing that. Before I do that, I just want to say to our parents and our residents that the problem of racism and the discussion of diversity, equity, and inclusion are not new. They've been part of our district's discussions for many, many years, part of our foundation of our mission statement and what our teachers and administrators strive for. And as we move through discussions on this particular piece of curriculum, I think it's important to say that it isn't just one specific piece of curriculum that's the answer to all of those things. Those things can be addressed in many curriculum and many methods of teaching. And it certainly is here at the Fremont City Schools in different ways. John, I think you and your staff have done an excellent job of selecting curriculum that embodies those discussions and really appreciate that. So I just want to caution residents that if there are districts that don't adopt any particular piece of curriculum, it does not mean that they're not addressing those topics. So with that, let me present the information from Shari Mullins. I think you'll find very interesting.
What is critical race theory? Parents at this forum on race and curriculum in the Rockwood School District are the only ones fired up about it.
I did not use the word racist.
Scholars of critical race theory define it as recognizing race as a social construct, but one that's been deeply embedded in American institutions throughout history. They say you can see implications of that today.
White privilege is real. It is so real.
Like in the criminal justice system or even demographics of communities. Advocates say CRT urges people to grapple with systemic racism, to work toward understanding and fairness.
What are the biases that could exist in the system so that we can actually create that platform and create the equity that we all long for?
But opponents have said CRT perpetuates racism.
It's basically white shaming. And that's basically a racist viewpoint.
Saying it pushes the idea that white people are inherently racist and people of color inherently oppressed.
We can do a lot of good for the nation from here, but not if we're continually divided by race and or gender. Let's look at ourselves as equal. I think that's what Martin Luther King Jr. was looking for.
Some Missouri lawmakers are pushing to ban CRT in schools. They say it can make children feel bad.
To me, this is child abuse.
Past several years, there have been many attempts to fundamentally change our traditions and our rich history.
A history that has been largely written by white people.
All we want is just a little acknowledgement.
America can be a great country and while also being a flawed country. And that it is okay to address those flaws, to bring attention to it, and in some cases, rewrite a more accurate version of history.
Defining race-related terms like CRT is one thing. Having the difficult conversations is another. I'm Abby Larico, 5 on your side.
And the last thing I'd like to point out in the report to illustrate some of the efforts of the Fremont City School District to address those issues, even though we do not currently teach the CRT specific curriculum, is by contracting the services of Shari Mullins herself. She is the city's diversity inclusion officer, and she has done exactly what they ended the video with, help guide us through some difficult decisions and ways that we can move through those topics and include everyone. That's all I have for this evening. Any questions? Thank you. At the public, hearing. Yes.
Okay, let's have our superintendent's report.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Gorbetz. Good evening, everyone. Just a couple things. We have an extensive agenda this evening. Last week, our team for our building project was in town for the 11th month walkthrough. And what that is for our elementaries is basically it's been 11 months since we moved into them. And that's sort of a critical time for the state, our commissioning agents, our financial agents. Everyone was in town last week and took tours to our elementary schools and sort of looked at some unresolved items. There aren't very many, a couple things, some small items on the punch list, a couple other things that they really want to make sure were addressed, and they are pleased with where we are. So then that will go into a report from our commissioning agent, who then will be able to help us start closing that project down, which is very exciting. So I want to let you know we got a giant step in our elementary schools last week. Also wanted to again say publicly that December 5th, we are planning a community-wide open house for all of our buildings. We will open up from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. in the afternoon, December 5th, and I'll get more of this out in a press release. For our community to come see our new spaces. We unfortunately weren't able to do that with our elementary schools, and what should have been a time of celebration was a let's get as few people in here as possible time. So we're going to do that, and that same day, December 5th, we'll open up our new middle school, which is only 10 years old. But we also have both the old high school and the new high school open for public tour on the same day. My own sons have said, Dad, I really want to come back and see the old building. They're not as interested in the new building. What they want to do is one last view of the old building. So we'll get that out very publicly. December 5th is that day. So we plan to have the entire community open, every building open, staff on hand to help coordinate that, but have a day of celebration for our entire community to see our new spaces. And I'm very excited. And as you can imagine, and some of the pictures I've sent to the board, the new high school is an absolute beauty. It's just something that I can't wait for the community to see, and how proud we can all be of what we've accomplished together. So just want to get that on everybody's radar. Save the date, December 5th, Sunday afternoon, for community-wide open house. Also next week, just want to let you know I'm having a meeting with the health department and all the county superintendents again, just to sort of touch base again, kind of review the latest CDC recommendations and talk about what we're doing. And then I also want to come back to the board with my recommendations next time, just that we're going to be full speed ahead. Hopefully that is where we are. And we always say things will be okay, and then who knows? But I just want you to know we're meeting to make sure that we understand what the CDC recommendations are, what the health department's recommendations are. But as of right now, we are all in every day. The only exception to that will be a case-by-case 9 through 12 option for some blended learning. And I was also, that kind of leads into my next question. With the board's permission, we had talked about on our work sessions, which are the second board meetings of the month, we were going to start running some departments through, like maybe do a math department, K-12, just see what the math department's doing, English, maybe phys ed, art, it's kind of, and we'll set that schedule up. But I was wondering, and actually Mr. Gorbetz asked me this last week, if it'd be good to hear about that online option that we'll have available. We've got some forms available. We've got a lot of things for the board to consider. So with your permission, I'd like to propose that be at least part of next work sessions meeting to go over sort of what we have in mind for that very case-by-case limited online learning at our next board meeting. So that, I think, is all I have as far as my report. I don't know if any questions for me in general while we've got that going. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, before we have our recommendations, why don't we skip to the first hearing of the public?
Sounds great, Mr. Gorbetz. Thank you.
Would anybody like to address the board at this time? If so, please step to the podium and state your name and address. Limit your comments to 5 minutes.
President Gorbetz, Justin Smith, 1119 Borchard Avenue, Fremont. My only encouragement is I would encourage the board, since you're not already using this curriculum, to pass a resolution that you will not use this curriculum, the critical race theory curriculum in the future. I think that simple gesture, I think, would make people feel better and would make people appreciate more that the Fremont schools, along with the city of Fremont, we are co-paying together, along with Terra Community College, a diversity director, and she's doing a phenomenal job. Fremont, the city of Fremont, which I'm a councilman, is committed to diversity. The schools are committed to diversity. And I think the critical race story is actually going to divide us and take away the work we've been making when it comes to diversity. So I would just encourage the board to pass a resolution to make sure that it doesn't happen in the future. Thank you.
If I could respond briefly, to my knowledge, we don't have a critical race theory curriculum. I'm not sure one is in existence.
There are versions that you could get, yeah.
As an entity unto itself.
I do believe there's a standalone curriculum race theory.
That's not part of the standards, correct?
Correct.
So our curriculum is predicated on state standards.
Correct.
And critical race theory is not
correct
part of state standards at this time.
That is correct.
In fact, isn't there a bill that was proposed?
Yes, I just read that this evening. Actually, there's a bill working its way through the legislature at some point that would ban use of critical race theory in Ohio.
And if that comes into effect, then it becomes a moot point. The Ohio Department of Education is not in the habit of disobeying the law. So, okay, yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I guess this is not on?
It's on.
It's on. It's actually for our audience at home.
Okay, okay. My name is Chris Mullis, and I live at 28 Pinewood Drive. I just want to make note of this exquisite dress that Mr. Detweiler and I do. He told me you wear a dark coat and a blue shirt when you come to the meeting, buddy. He also indicated to me that you normally set aside 30 minutes for people to address, and since this gentleman used 5 minutes, he told me that I might be able to use 25 minutes if that's okay.
True. He is putting words in my mouth. Let the record show.
5 minutes a person. 30 minutes for a topic, but 5 minutes a person.
Can I help you do that, Chris? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that'd be good.
All right. Thank you. You're welcome.
I do have a lot that I want to cover, and I remember when I took my first speech class in college in 1962, they said if you want to get your point across on a lot of class, you learn how to speak very, very quickly. I've never been able to adapt that to the way I speak, so I hope you bear with me. I gave you a list, again, as with the other two lists that I gave you, of a number of words, terms, phrases that people use. And it seems like a lot of these just come up every day. And one thing I can tell you is I don't have hundreds of people working for me in an office or across the country to get these to me. For me to do something like this just takes me hours. So anyway, here we go. We have a cancer spreading through America, and it has metastasized ever so slowly into every fabric of our country and its society. It has become apparent this insidious, treacherous movement has taken decades. Now the realization, it is finally here and has reached into our schools. The Marxist movement is now being used to indoctrinate our kids. And one thing, when you listen to me, you might think, boy, this is pretty political, but you have to understand our politicians are using our schools and our children as a football and as a soccer ball, beating them back and forth to get what they want. Schools teaching kids to hate each other. Students are verbally and physically attacked when all they want to do is just come to school and make it through the day. You can forget about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, where people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Seems they did not have to tear down statues of Mr. King. Rather, they just threw them under the bus. Schools are separating kids from their parents' values. Teachers see kids as groups, not individuals. One of the things is when they take and break people up into groups versus individuals, you can take and indoctrinate a larger group, and you can take and put them aside and work with these people rather than working with individuals. Students are afraid to speak up in class because of what they think. The new term for this is wrong think. Teachers are required to go through diversity training. And I see when I look through the thing for the mission statement for the diversity coordinator here, it appears that somehow this is already going to be taking place in the Fremont Public Schools. I hope that's not the case. How soon will it be before students must go through the same training? The critical race theory teachers say they must stand up for their students. This is wrong. Parents must stand up for their children. Alicia Garcia, Opal Tometi, and Patrice Cullors are three people who founded the Black Lives Matter movement. And a lot of these things that I say are because I have a son-in-law who's a police officer in the city of Chicago, and I have a daughter who teaches public school in the city of Chicago. Often I have thought while watching the news with all the black children and babies being shot and or killed during the riots in the cities such as Chicago, why there is no outcry from the Black Lives Movement matter. 752 children were shot and killed in 2016 in Chicago. Doing some research, I came across a video on YouTube. Patrice Cullors indicating in a speech she gave several years ago that Black Lives Matter only was concerned with the blacks who have been murdered by the police. The other blacks didn't seem to be of concern. Anybody know who Susan Rosenberg is? I didn't think. In 1983, Susan Rosenberg, a communist terrorist and a member of the May 19th Communist Organization, bombed the U.S. Capitol building. We have people there that went into that building who didn't even go into the building, are arrested, and they're being held in solitary confinement. She bombed the U.S. Capitol building, being sentenced to 58 years in prison, and only serving 16 years. She was pardoned by President Bill Clinton and then became the fundraiser for the Black Lives Movement. These founding members have indicated they are devout communists and Marxists. One must ask, why did our government fly their flag over consulates in other countries? How is their educational curriculum being used in public schools across the United States? How has this organization amassed $90 million, and how did one of its members spend $3.5 million on new homes for herself? And who are the organization or people funding other such groups who wish to dismantle our schools? That's the one thing that concerns me. Who are the people that are taking and funding these? If you look at the list.
Sir, we're running close to the 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to go through a couple things here. Does anybody know who Randy Weingarten is? That's correct. She's the president of the American Federation of Teachers. And she has indicated that if a state has outlawed the critical race theory to be taught in schools, or if cities have done it, she says to her teachers, if you want to teach it, you go ahead and teach it, because we already have the lawyers lined up to defend you. They come across with an old African proverb, know thyself. That's not an African proverb. Being Greek, I know that it's inscribed in the temple in Delphi. This stuff is spreading here to to Ohio. Are you familiar with the Columbus Academy? They had some parents who didn't want this stuff in their schools. And so the school system said, well, here's what we're going to do. She says, with these people, she says, they failed to nurture a positive working relationship with us. So what did they do? They punished them by not allowing their children to attend school there anymore. Loudoun County Public Schools. And one of the things that happens with people with critical race and whatever, they like to use fear. And the Loudoun County Public Schools in Colorado was having a meeting one night. The board meeting was completely filled. Some people got a little bit out of hand, and so the board president said, this meeting is adjourned. But I'll bet you $1 to a donut if those were left-wingers coming in there with masks, jumping on the tables, shouting in their faces with bullhorns and whatever, there would have been no doubt that that wouldn't have happened. And just two last things. Anybody know Deanna Price, Brooke Anderson, and Gwen Berry? Most people don't. Those were the three ladies who participated in the hammer throw for the Olympics to see if they could get on the team. Deanna Price and Brooke Anderson finished third. They didn't get any news on TV, but Gwen Berry sure did when she held up her shirt on her head and she protested and she wouldn't stand for the American flag. One of the things that I find interesting is Jesse Owens. During the 1938 Olympics, he didn't go there and have to protest. Jesse Owens showed everybody what a great man he was by winning those Olympic trials. In the paper the other day, they had this article here about this gentleman who was giving a speech. Millions have learned the history. Veteran talks about having Mike muted on Memorial Day in Hudson, Ohio. This seems to become more frequent. If they don't like what you say, one person makes a decision what they're going to do. That particular organization has been disbanded, and it's one of our largest that we have. One last thing I would like to give you, and one last thing I want to show you. Here's a picture that was on Facebook, and it shows a lady here, and she's holding up a sign saying 3.6 million black kids in poverty. Why do Democrats choose illegal aliens first? Blacks before illegals. 3.6 million. I think there's more than that many children, black children, that don't eat properly during the day. But I think the reason they didn't show it is because she has a Donald Trump shirt on. I would like to give you one last thing that was sent to me, and it has to do with our flag. I hope I have it here. And with our flag being despised by so many of the people, and I use the word racist, communist, whatever. When I got this from one of my friends, I was very impressed with what it is, and it's the folding of the flag when they have a ceremony at one of the national cemeteries for soldiers who have died. And I never knew the reason why they break the casket with it, and why they folded it 13 times. I could go on a lot more like Mr. Detweiler said I could do. I think I said enough, and I do appreciate you giving me something. I do love our schools. One last thing. My dad was one of 6 children that lived in Eastport, Pennsylvania. My dad thought so much of education, he wanted to be a doctor. But in the 7th grade, he dropped out of school so he could go to work and help support the family. He made sure that all of his children, all of his brothers and sisters, went to school and finished high school. My dad became a very successful businessman with just a 7th grade education. We have so many good people out there, but we focus on just a few who are the disruptors of our community. But I agree with what was said to me earlier about the school and the CRT. I do believe that, we work hard to make sure that all kids get a good education and they know what's expected. Thank you very much.
Alex, could I make just one comment in response? Since the gentleman brought up a question specifically to the diversity training being conducted in the school district by Shari Mullins, I would like to clarify something. That training is excellent and should not be tied to any controversy going on this topic. So I think to assure our public of what's being discussed in that and what's not, may I ask that Shari join on a scheduled basis some of our public meetings and demonstrate some of those discussions so that our residents have that assurance that what she's bringing to the table is actually very inclusive and healing. It is not divisive. There's nothing controversial about what she brings to the table. So, John, would you be willing
Yes,
to
ma'am.
schedule that?
Absolutely.
Not only that, it should be noted that diversity training is not new to our district. We had diversity training several times in increments starting probably 30 years ago. So
Thank you again.
it's not a new phenomenon. Sure, it'll be worthwhile.
So in the next couple of workshops, if she could be on the agenda with specific samples.
Okay, moving on to recommendations of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Gorbetz. Item one, short list this week, but still a good one. We have donations to accept. This is from the Kiwanis Club for a book for Lutz Elementary.
We have a motion to approve item one. Moved by Mrs. Ray,
Second.
second by Mrs. Spiritu. Any questions regarding item one? Guess it would be interesting to know what the book is.
It would be interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah. I could find out for you, Mr. Gorbetz. We don't often list the book titles. I'm not sure. But we certainly could.
It might be germane.
Okay.
A roll call, please.
Ms. Ray?
Yeah.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Gorbetz?
Yes, motion carries. Facilities and operations.
All right. Maybe if it pleases the board and Mr. Gorbetz, I would recommend maybe we move the legislative report maybe to the beginning every time. That seemed like an appropriate place for it to be. Well, maybe since we did it tonight.
Used to be.
I thought so too. That sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, it used to be.
With your permission, we'll just move that. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Item two are some contracts. First one is with Walsworth Publishing. That is the company that works with us for our high school yearbook. Item three is an excess cost for our satellite services of $25,000 with Vanguard. That's to support our students with special needs. Item four, that's the number I gave you at the beginning of the meeting, clarifying that for extended school year family liaison services, we've expended some money with your approval. So if I could have a motion for those.
We have a motion to approve items 2, 3, and 4.
Motion to approve.
Moved by Mrs. Espiritu,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Laird. Any questions or comments regarding items 2, 3, and 4? Regarding the Vanguard contract, I'm assuming that's for the resource room that
Correct.
we have.
That's correct.
Were built by the student.
Yes. And that's kind of an upper limit. What we anticipate that we wouldn't necessarily use all of that.
So we get a refund if we don't use it.
We wouldn't use the balance. That's correct. Yes.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Ray, Mr. Gorbitz.
Yes. Motion carries.
All right. Thanks.
Policy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Moving on, beginning with item 5 are policies. Notice that the first one is the only one in the list that's a first reading, and that's actually the one that we actually got guidance from the Ohio School Board Association to suspend, delete the mask because it was a kind of a all-covering policy, so we're backing off of that. That's first reading for that one. Then item 6 would be second readings for the ones that we had on our last agenda. I'd certainly answer any questions if you had any, but those are all driven by legislative changes, so there's nothing district-driven in that list. So.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve items 5 through 17?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Price. Seconded by Mrs. Ray. Are there any questions at all regarding those policies? Any concerns? A roll call, please.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu,
Yes.
Mrs. Laird,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbitz.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you very much, Board. Item 18 is a little awkward. It's actually just asking your permission if I may get the same percent that the teachers got. So that's just kind of keeping me on the same pace with our staff for compensation with your approval. And item 19, we had 2 resignations just recently, Suzanne Davis and Christopher Hill. So if you could accept those this evening, we'll fill those quickly as we can. Item 20 are new hires. I have Alexis Gideon, high school history teacher. Mark Headley will be at Krogan as an intervention specialist. Rebecca Spicer will be at Atkinson also as an intervention specialist. Moving on, item 21, a few cleanups on our supplemental duty positions for this fall. You'll see there football, soccer, and cheerleading positions for non-certified staff. Item 22, teacher mentor, Kristen Coxis, a set amount to be a teacher mentor as part of our licensing program. Item 23 is also a teacher mentor that is Elizabeth Homaker. Item 24 are a list of a few status changes, either due to further education or time served. So for your approval with those this evening. Then item 25 is an unpaid leave of absence for Linda Shaw for this school year.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve items 18 through 25?
Move to approve.
Moved by Ms. Laird. Seconded by Mrs. Ray. Are there any questions regarding items 18 through 25? Okay, roll call, please.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Ms. Ray,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Gorbitz.
Yes, motion carries. Curriculum.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Gorbitz. Item 26 this evening basically is now the official stamp on what we had last meeting. You know, Denise came and gave us a very thorough description of just how we approve curriculum, which I think is a very appropriate thing for us to review at this time when we're looking at so much curriculum and just all the myriad steps that we go through and the committees and the approval process for all of our curriculum. So this would be your official approval of that process as we move forward.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve item 26?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Price,
Second.
seconded by Mrs. Espiritu. Any further questions regarding our curriculum management plan? Roll call, please.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu,
Yes.
Ms. Laird,
Yes.
Ms. Ray, Mr. Gorbitz.
Yes, motion carries. Okay, fiscal matters. Board of the Treasurer.
I don't have anything tonight for approval, but after a busy couple months, I'm happy to say that the fiscal 21 is closed out and we're in fiscal 22. So it's been a very happy time for us in my department to move on.
You could feel the energy back there the last week and a half. It's been something. They've been hunkered down like worker bees. Otherwise, they've done a great job. We pushed food under the door for a couple of weeks, right? That's what it felt like. We made sure they come up for air now and then. They've done a great job.
Okay, board member communications and information, Mr. Price.
It's nice to see guests again, so thank you for coming in. We had too many months where there was no one here except for us with a mask on and trying to figure out anything that was going on. So I will say, Mr. Sorg, Jan Sorg, where are you?
Right.
It's been 2 different board meetings now, and you were the mainstay at our board meetings. So Jan, you need to come back out. So I'm sure he was busy doing something. So other than that, we're about halfway through the summer. I bring that up to my wife.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you can almost feel the pace pick up already. Yeah. For sure.
Summer school, is it?
Yeah, it's going well. A couple of the grade levels are wrapped up. A couple are just about to wrap up. Actually, we did start our math camp today for middle schoolers. I'm going to talk about that. That's the Heidelberg students who've come on campus to help us with our math camp. When I stopped by today, it's going very well.
Good.
It's good to see actually even those young adult future teachers working with our students. And actually the director, I'm sorry, her name slips my mind, one of the professors who's part of the program, just talked about what a good experience has already been just today, for her students and ours. So very exciting. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Ray.
Well, thanks to our visitors, and we appreciate and any communication and input from our community. Yes, we appreciate that. We appreciate our gifts from Kiwanis. I'm sure the book isn't about diversity, but we're grateful for the book. And looking forward to our open house. Thanks, Mr. Detweiler, for making the arrangement for our community to see what they have done.
Very exciting.
Together with us.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that. So I think that's probably all I have.
Okay, Ms. Laird.
Okay. Also, thank you for guests joining us. Your attendance and input's always welcome. For those that chose to come and speak in person, or those who have emailed information to us or sent us videos to share, we appreciate that. I look forward to hearing about the blended learning. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some opportunity there. There's also some controversy on whether we do online at all. So I'm anxious to hear what the plan is for that. So those who are interested or have a concern, tune in next meeting. I also wanted to share with you, we have an opportunity to do some nominating with the OSBA, the 2021 OSBA Student Achievement Fair. The deadline to send in nominations has been extended. We have time. There's a couple of opportunities. One, John, if we have an opportunity to showcase one of our programs that improved student achievement, and one that I can think of right off the bat before COVID even started, you and your staff really went to work on assessing the reading skills of our young readers. And I'm sure that led to improvement for them, or whatever that may be. There's the one-to-one technology program efforts, STEM workforce exchange, workforce readiness. I don't know if the PLC that Tony Walker and John Cahill have, if that might be a nice one to nominate. But I know we've got great things going on with our kids, and we really want to showcase those opportunities. So if you could think about which ones, we can nominate multiple. They'll pick a maximum of 2 from any one district. That would be great. And in addition, we can nominate art displays. So from our student artists, it'd be great to have some of Fremont's work in Columbus for that. So do you think,
Yes, we will come up with something.
if we do it like next meeting, is that enough time?
No, I think so. Yeah.
Be okay?
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
You bet.
I just want to say I'm looking forward to December 5th, the open house, to be able to see all the schools and the community will be able to come together and see all the good things that are happening in the district and with the new schools and it's just be nice to be back together and do what we do. And then I would like to thank our guest speakers for coming in. It's nice to not be here by ourselves. And we know we have an audience out there on our live, but we can't see them. So it's nice to see bodies here. So thank you for coming in.
I'd also like to thank our guests tonight, our speakers. And I'd like to emphasize that this school district strives to be inclusive and to be apolitical. And we want our students to learn how to be critical thinkers within the framework of the prescribed standards and curriculum that we are required to teach. But my main issue is the apolitical nature of our district. It's something we really work very hard to be aware of, and avoid political issues permeating the instructional program. At this time, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss items B and J. We will not be returning to conduct any further business.
So moved.
So it's moved by Ms. Laird.
Second.
Second by Mr. Price. Roll call, please.
Ms. Laird?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Ray?
Yes.
Mrs. Spiritu?
Yes.
Mr. Gorbutz?
Yes. Motion carries. Next.